What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at is power of 2. Write a function that determines if a given number is a power of 2. This function returns 1 if the given number is a power of 2, otherwise it returns 0, and you must prototype as follows. Before we code these out, because I have two examples, I want to show you visually what I mean by what we're going to do. So let's do that first. What does the question mean when it's asking us to find if a number is a power of 2? That just means 2 to the what power equals our number. If we use 16 as the example, if we just keep dividing it down by 2 until we got to 1, then we know 16 is a power of 2. So 16 divided by 2 is 8, divided by 2 is 4, divided by 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions. 2 to the power of 4 equals 16. Now what happens if we try one that is not a power of 2? Well, let's use 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, divided by 2 is 1.5. And that's where we stop. Because 3 divided by 2 is not an even integer, that means it's no longer a power of 2, and we can just stop here. This method was working downwards in division, but we could also do it by working upwards. Let's use 16 again. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. And if we use 12 to check again, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Now since we've gone from 8, which is that one, to 16, and 12 is in here, 12 is not a power of 2. Both of these methods we're able to program. Now that you've seen how we're going to do it, let's take care of iterating up first. We first need a value to keep track of our tally, unsigned int number, and remember we need the same data type in order to do the comparison. And we'll just say number is equal to 1 for starters. So if n equals 0, we're going to return 0. Now we'll have an interesting while loop, and we're just going to infinitely loop. That's because we're going to have two bulletproof statements, and it's going to hit one or the other. It has to. So the first one is if the number is equal to the number that was passed, we're going to return 1. Because that will tell us, yes, absolutely, we hit our number with the 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then we know it's a power of 2. Else if number is greater than n, which means this is like our second example, it goes beyond the value, we know it's never going to be a power of 2, so we just return 0. Now in order to make sure we have our counter continuously updating, number times equals 2, and that's it. Now you might have noticed that we have stdio right here already, and that's because I've set up a test for us, and it's not taking any arguments. Our main is just void, and that's because this question is only asking you to return a function. So in the exam, you don't want to waste time having to convert your strings to integers in order to do the comparison. So we just manually assign a value and test it here. Alright, run it. 12 is not a power of 2. That's correct. That checks out to our one previously. Now let's change this to 16. This should work. Correct. 16 is a power of 2. Now we can pass 0, but we already know our number is going to be caught by it. So let's check some weird one. Okay, there we go. Now let's look at the second method. In the second method, we're going to use the modulus operator. While n, and we're going to get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. While n modulus 2 equals 0. So we have this. This is going to check that n modulus 2 is equal to 0, and every time that is, we're going to do n divided by equal 2. So it's just going to chop our number down. And in the end, we just want to check if n equal to 1, then we're going to return 1. Because that's the last division that will happen before this one is false. So if at this point it's equal to 1, then we know it's a power of 2, because the last division we should have is 2 divided by 2 equals to 1. And then if not, we just return 0. And this return doesn't even need to be an else statement, because if it's not going to hit this, it's absolutely going to hit this. And those are the only two values we care about, if it's either 1 or not 1. Let's save it, recompile. There we go. We get the same answer. Is not a power of 2, is not a power of 2. Now let's check to make sure that it's working as intended. 16 is a power of 2. And let's do 2, just for shits and giggles. There we go. 2 quick and easy methods for solving this one. Just remember, you're submitting a function here. So get rid of all of this, like so. Take care of your stdio, and I have all this garbage here. Blah, blah, blah. Clean it up really nicely. And that's that. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.